Well, let's continue the conversation around this story of the National Convention. ANC NEC member Dr Malusi Gigaba joining us now, and he has added his voice among those who are saying this should be postponed. Mr. Gigaba, good evening to you. Thank you for your time. Let's understand your reasoning and whether it represents a collective of ANC voices.
No, the remarks I made were personal, and the point I was making is that if this was the dialogue itself, the call for its postponement would have made sense. But given that it's a convention, which amongst others will set in place the principles for engagement, the processes of the dialogue, and establish the steering committee that will prepare for the dialogue, it then can go on, because what is important is that all of us must admit that the dialogue is an important intervention and process which should help to frame South Africa's future and assist us to achieve a social contract that extends beyond business, government, and labor, but that also involves civil society and stakeholders. But that this dialogue should be underpinned by certain principles. One is that it's a process, it's not an event. And so the convention will set in place those timelines for such a process. But secondly, that it does not replace a democratically elected government. So whatever is discussed and the manner in which it is undertaken, it should bear in mind that there is a democratically elected government that enjoys the popular support in terms of the constitution, and whatever views will emanate from the dialogue processes should assist to strengthen the democratic process and particularly the development process in the country.
There are many voices, let me put it that way. And these are voices from the legacy foundations, in fact, the Mbeki Foundation today, confirming that they will not be attending the convention because what will unfold on Friday for them actually does not amount to a convention. But add to that, the Youth League, which you once led, also adding its voice, saying that they feel that this process is looking more and more as though it is being hijacked by right-wing forces. So as you answer those questions, I'm now a bit unclear as to where you stand exactly. Are you saying that the convention should continue taking place, or should it be postponed? Where exactly do you stand?
Well, the convention will take place with or without my opinion. And I think I share the sentiments of those who feel that it should be as representative as possible. But the convention itself is like talks about talks, which took place in 1990, 1991, where the stage was being set for the actual negotiations. It does not represent negotiations itself. The ANC Youth League is very correct to argue that the convention should be broadly representative of the people of South Africa, the different sectors which must prepare, much like the Job Summit of 1998, where different sectors, labor, business, youth, women, came and made organized suggestions in terms of how to create jobs. So the convention should not be viewed as the be-all and end-all, but it also is natural in processes of this nature that there should be such glitches that are encountered, and such glitches should be engaged in a constructive, robust, and genuine way, so that the outcome of the dialogue is one that is acceptable to all South Africans. If there is no intention to engage constructively with the criticism in particular.
Well, let me engage you then on the use of that very word, robustness, because the issues that plague South Africa, for many people, they are clear. And it is corruption one of them. There are state-owned companies that are still recovering to this day. Transnet is one of them. What should be done to hold people accountable who are seen as responsible for placing it to where it is today?
The dialogue will focus on what is most important to South Africans, and that is unemployment, poverty, and inequality. It must answer the question how we are going to grow the South African economy, how are we going to grow the South African economy, create jobs, address inequality and poverty by, among others, addressing the various instruments and entities of the state, developing state capacity to be able to achieve that, ensuring that our economy grows beyond 0% level and achieves the desired NDP goals of over 5 to 6% growth on a sustainable basis over a prolonged period of time. Remember that South Africans are unemployed, and that is because the economy is not growing. And that should be the focus of the dialogue, so that all the stakeholders are locked into a social contract in a meaningful way to ensure that such happens. Now, the focus on SOEs, on corruption, on crime, and on education, on health, are all issues which should come into the sharp spotlight at the national dialogue. But the national dialogue has got to have a very clear agenda about developing South Africa, because this is what is topmost in the minds and agendas of all South Africans.
And part of what South Africans are going to want and raise sharply is how to hold people accountable that they see as having been responsible for corruption. Because if you agree that corruption and stealing of public monies is not a victimless crime, then you surely have got to hold a view as to why it's taking so long to hold people accountable.
But clearly, those are all issues which already fall within the purview and are laid on the table of the state security agencies. They are dealing with all of those issues. There is even a commission of inquiry established to ensure that the allegations which were made by General Mkhwanazi are addressed. So those issues are already there. The national dialogue should not get bogged into small issues, important as they are, but it should present to South Africa a template, a vision for the future, and not be held back by issues which already have mechanisms that have been established to address them. It must give us a vision of the future so that we know where exactly we are going. When we met during the CODESA processes, we were not just discussing the crimes that the apartheid government had committed. We knew that there will be instruments established to do that, but we were most keenly concerned about the issues of a new constitution, a new democratic dispensation, the type of state that we need to establish, and how we are going to move South Africa. Now, this convention presents an opportunity for us to actually establish a tradition that after every 30 or even 50 years, we will come together as South Africans and map out a new vision of the future, taking into consideration the experiences that we would have gone through as a country. And that is what should be topmost in the minds of the people who are going to be representing different stakeholders at the convention.
There is a view that this initiative is too important to be hijacked by political interests in the ANC, who may be tempted to turn it into a campaign platform for the upcoming elections. Is that fair criticism?
No, it's not a fair criticism. The ANC is the majority party in South Africa. It has subjected itself to the democratic process and received more than 40% or 40% of the vote of South Africans. According to the South African Constitution, that is what is considered a litmus test on whether you are going to govern the country or not govern the country. And as such, we have been given sufficient support to be able to lead processes of this nature. The ANC must not be denied the responsibility to provide leadership on any process simply because somebody is worried that they have not obtained enough numbers to lead the country, and therefore it is not them but the ANC that is doing that. I think what the dialogue does is to take us out of our little political factions and get us into a room where we will sit together as South Africans to be able to discuss together. If you remember what CODESA did, it was really more a discussion among political organizations about the future of the country. But the dialogue, which was initially proposed by civil society, actually goes beyond the CODESA framework by involving stakeholders and partners in shaping South Africa's future. And that is why it is so important. And it must therefore be of utmost importance for all of us that it must not be hijacked by any single sector. It must not be hijacked by any single class or stratum. It must, however, be a platform to constitute a social contract. So those who are concerned, who have raised concerns, and the foundations that have moved out of the process must still be engaged. The door must not be closed for them to come back and make their meaningful contributions, because everybody, every sector or entity, including through public consultations in provinces with ordinary people, must be allowed an opportunity to make their viewpoint known and have it included so that the outcome is inclusive and representative of the majority of the views in the country.
Finally, as you've said right at the beginning, that these are your personal views and not those of the ANC, there will be people who say your voice is not a credible one because of the previous allegations of corruption as it relates to state capture. How will you respond?
But Xoli, you and I have discussed this before, and I think it's quite malicious of you to do this. The allegations which were made against me at the Zondo Commission, I responded to them in detail. And none of those allegations stuck. And so there is absolutely no need for me. I'm not under any investigation as I sit before you. I've not been charged of any corruption as I sit before you. And the fact that allegations have been made against me does not mean that those allegations are true. And I have responded extensively to those allegations. And so I stand before you with a very clean and clear conscience as to who I am and what I have done before. And I think that those things should not continue to be held against me any more than whatever you yourself may have been accused of at any given point in time can continue to be held against you, even though those things have not been proven to be true by anyone. But all of those issues that pertain to the Zondo Commission will be subjected to a review process because they need to be tested, and I need to put those things behind me as we move forward.
Malusi Gigaba, ANC NEC member, thank you very much for your time.